makes sense. Makes all the sense in the world. Why you don't like Jesus. Because he spoke against your world. He said the world hate me because I testify of the works thereof, that the works are evil. Did he not say that? He said the world hated me before it hated you. So that means if you are really a true believer, like it speaks of in the book of St. John chapter 4, at some point in your life, you're going to get to figure out why Jesus was hated. Because you're going to be going through the same thing. If you're a true believer, they're going to reject his words that's coming out of your mouth. They're not your words. You ain't the one that called them Edomite dogs. You ain't the one that said the nations are nothing. You ain't say that. You're repeating it. You're repeating what God said. Now I'm going to hit you with something else. You know what Jesus Christ said? He said he ain't even say that. He said my words are not my words. They're not my own. He said the Father that sent me, he gave me a commandment of what I shall say and what I shall speak. Right? Right? So who words are these? Who words are these? Who words are these? We know it. We know it. We know it. We know it. The world gonna have to know it. The world gonna find these things out. Yeshavium. They're gonna find out that these are the deep hidden things of God. The gut feelings of the Father of all spirits. The Father of all spirits is talking about breaking them up, breaking them up. Ain't that something? Now you see why this whole world is enemies against God. You see it, right? What verse we in right there, sir?
That was the end of 23.
Okay, so now we're going to go to the book of Galatians chapter 3. Let's go there. And what we're going to show is that God foreseen, he set them up, is what I was going into. He set the world up. And they thinking that they are the Gentiles that God is going to bring back in when he said he's going to graft them in again. See, they don't know the history. You got to know the history of the Bible. God is consistent. He's consistent all throughout history. It ain't no gap in history that don't make sense when you go through the history of God. Everybody understand that? And how he dealt with his people and how he dealt with the planet Earth. It all makes sense. But when the children of Israel were unbelieving, the prophets got the word from God that he would scatter them among the nations. He would break up the nation of Israel, and they would be dispersed among everybody. So now, as they were out there, God also realized that he made promises. Promises that he had to keep to his friend Abraham. That his seed would become as the stars of heaven, right? And kings should be of him, right? So now God, well, I ain't going to say that, but people will view that as a dilemma. The Israelites are scattered among the nations because they're being judged for unbelief, but yet God still has to fulfill his promise to Abraham. So God needed a way to do what? Justify his people. What does justify his people mean? That means make them unblameable, unreprovable, holy, so people can't point the finger at them and say they wicked, they going off, they ate pork chops. Because among the nations, they lost the knowledge of who they were. And they started calling themselves Americans. Right? Give me some other nationalities. Africans. Everybody got that, right? They start calling themselves by these different Gentile nationalities, but now God is going to be bringing them out of this, and he ain't going to be bringing them out of this because they're righteous. It ain't got nothing to do with them. When God called them, they were probably in the church kneeling down before an idol. See, this is where it don't make sense to the nations now. This is where it don't make sense now. They thought that, wait a minute, they thought in order for Israel to come back, they got to be righteous. But when God started calling them, they was sitting in front of an idol. The nations figured if we could keep them wicked, they ain't gonna never come back. That's how it's going. God gonna keep moving his love away from them. God called them while they was on the corner selling drugs. Ain't that something? He said he is found of a people that sought him not. See, you got the people that think they know God, put on a big banana hat every Sunday. Go and worship Jesus. And those are the ones that ain't gonna never find him. Ain't gonna never find him. Snuffing up their nose at the brother on the corner, right? Now, God is doing the calling, and he's calling the ones that got a bobblehead Jesus on their dashboard. Ain't that something? So, God seen that he had to do something. That would bring us to Galatians chapter 3. Let's look at this. Let's look at this. Galatians chapter 3, and we're going to start at verse 8. Let's look at this. Galatians chapter 3, verse 8. Read that.
And the scripture, foreseeing that God will justify the heathen.
Everybody clearly see that, right? Now, right then and there, we should know something is going on here. Why? I just said it earlier. God is consistent in the way that he deals. If this is the natural nations, it don't make sense. Don't make sense. It's outside of everything that God has done. Did everybody understand that? So we know something is going on here. God's saying that he got to justify some heathens. He foreseen that he had to justify the heathen. Read on.
Through faith.
Through what?
Through faith.
Through what?
Through faith.
Through what?
Through faith.
Through faith. This is where the works wasn't going to be an issue. They just had to believe. They out there kneeling down before an idol, but when God came to them, did they believe? And once they believed, they was going to become justified. They was out there selling some drugs, but when God came to them, did they believe? And why is Abraham so important with this story? Because when you know the history of what went on with Abraham, in his father's house was nothing but idols. He came from a land of idolatry. But when God came to Abraham, what did he do? 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 He believed. He believed. And in believing God, it justified him. It made him righteous. It made him righteous. The minute he believed, he turned from a sinner to a righteous man. The minute he seen it, he became justified. Now nobody can point the finger no more. See, the Lord ain't making an issue. He said, get thee up from the land of thine activity and go to a better place, a land that I will show thee. Everybody understand that? So once Abraham believed that, he became righteous with God. Everybody got that? Everybody got that? And the same thing happened with all the Israelites that God was going to be bringing back into the truth. The ones that was out there and didn't have the knowledge of who they are. Abraham didn't know that he was the man that was going to be chosen by God. The Lord been seeing that. He looked at Noah and said, I see righteousness before me in this generation. He was looking past Noah, even though he was looking at Noah. Through your seed. Abraham didn't know. Same way you didn't know. You was going about your day, wasn't you? Wasn't you? Wasn't you? And God showed up. Are you connected to the faith? Are y'all starting to see what I'm talking about? The faith. What are you believing in? What are you believing in? Let's read that one more time. Genesis chapter 3, verse 8.
And the scripture, foreseeing that God would justify the heathen.
That God would do what?
Justify the heathen.
Read on.
Through faith.
Through what?
Through faith.
Read on.
Preach before the gospel unto Abraham.
Okay, everybody see that, right? So it's associated with Abraham, but how do we know that heathen? I mean, if you just go back, if people could just go back and see what I see. Just look back at the scriptures. Just go back. Why are you so blinded? Because God have closed their eyes. It's obviously clear that when God told Abraham he was going to bless all nations, it wasn't talking about all nations.